Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you all for being here and helping us to convey incredibly important information to the people of Louisiana and beyond. Obviously, the effort to control, to contain, to extinguish these wildfires continues, and at the moment, there are more than, or approximately 60,000 acres that have burned across the state of Louisiana. We are approaching 600 or so wildfires in the month of August. That's close to what our folks at Ag and Forestry would see in a year. And so we wanted to come together today here in Beauregard Parish, particularly to take a firsthand look at the Tiger Island fire, which is the largest fire that we've experienced thus far, but is far from the only one. The other reason that we wanted to come today is because while we've had some improvement in the last 24 hours or so in terms of a little bit of precipitation around the state, the vast majority of that did not fall in southwest Louisiana. And the amount that did fall here was not sufficient to materially change the conditions. And so no one should be laboring under the misapprehension that we're back to normal in Louisiana. Far from it. And in fact, what we know is forecasted is even more critically dangerous fire conditions, because behind the front is drier air, lower relative humidity, higher winds, and sunny conditions. So the little bit of moisture that we were able to get over the last day and a half is going to very quickly evaporate. It's going to be gone, and then the conditions for fire are right back to where they were, and we will have above average temperatures. And yeah, they're going to be less than they were for the past month, but when you go from 103 and 104 to 93 and 94, these are still going to be red flag conditions. And we have the strongest drought that we've ever recorded in Louisiana already. And then compounding this is all the fuel that is down in our forests left from Hurricanes Laura and Delta. And across the state, we actually have some from Ida as well, because we are having fires elsewhere in the state. And you put all that together and you have a very volatile situation. And then sometimes you can have a little break in the weather. You don't have as many fires visible to the public, and people think that we're past this. There are still many fires out there that are burning, and there are a lot of places here in Tiger Island in Beauregard Parish where the fires continue. And so it only takes a little bit of wind to cause that to reignite and then quickly spread. In fact, the fire behavior analyst told us a little earlier that with the amount of fuel that remains available for the fire here in Beauregard Parish, the Tiger Island fire, that the fire, under the conditions that they're looking at, can easily reignite and then move at a half mile per hour. And so I just want everybody to be aware of that. We are not out of this. This is a long duration event. And so it is critically important that everybody abide by the burn ban. There simply is not an excuse to be burning anything outside in Louisiana these days. And when that changes, we're going to let you know. I'm going to let you know. The State Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry is going to let you know. I do want to, at the moment, let you all know, and we can get to specific questions at the end. We've been asked a lot of times, well, just how many people are engaged in fighting this firefight? Well, we have well over 400 National Guardsmen engaged. Well over 300 people with the task force put together by the Commissioner of Ag and Forestry, using both Louisiana people and people coming from across the country because of a compact that he has. There are well over 200 U.S. Forest Service individuals here in Beauregard Parish fighting the Tiger Island fire, and more U.S. Forest Service engaged in Vernon Parish. And we haven't yet talked about other state agencies or the locals, and we're well over 1,000 people. And we have unprecedented amounts of aircraft, both fixed wings and rotary wing, We have a number of dozers, whether they're owned by the National Guard or the Forest Service or Ag and Forestry. I just want you to know this is an extremely robust effort, which brings me to my next point. I want to thank everybody who's been engaged in this effort from the beginning. And I was just told by Steve Parrish from the U.S. Forest Service, who you're going to hear from in just a few minutes, that the work that was done early on by the local officials here and the firefighters, those first responders, really did set the stage for them being able to come in and really pick it up. And he said how much good work had been done. And of course, we know this because this is the worst wildfire that we've seen since at least the Second World War. We haven't had a single fatality in the wildfire. That is not an accident. And yeah, we've had some homes destroyed and we've had some that have been damaged, but in the grand scheme of things, it's been and if it's your home that's destroyed, then it's awful. And I get that, and our heart breaks for you. But the fact that we've had so few destroyed and damaged tells you what a great job that they've done. I want to personally thank Steve Parrish and his team coming from the U.S. Forest Service, because they come in with the expertise and the experience that, quite frankly, we don't have, because we don't engage in this type of emergency response often enough. But let me tell you, I believe that is going to change, because I think this is the new normal with climate change and things being drier and so forth. And so this is something that the Commissioner and I have been talking about. We're going to have to invest in Louisiana more time, more effort in training and exercising and learning, but also we're going to have to invest in more personnel and in more equipment so that we can more readily and adequately respond in the future when this happens. But I thank the folks from the U.S. Forest Service for being here, for bringing in that expertise. They were actually ordering assets and resources to be on the ground here before they ever got here. And they have very quickly gotten up to speed and have just done a tremendous amount of good work. So we're asking everybody to be patient, to do your part, make sure that you don't add to the problems that we're facing while we still have active fires that need to be extinguished, and so that we can protect property to the maximum extent. So with that, I am going to ask Commissioner Strain to come up and speak. He'll be followed by Steve Parrish from the National U.S. Forest Service. And then after that, we will take some questions should you have them. Commissioner?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Governor, I want to publicly thank you and your team for your leadership. You know, when we stood this up more than a week ago and we started the fight for Maryville, I can tell you when we committed every asset that we have, you know, that's when it starts looking daunting. You know, I've been in some firefights, but never when you have, you know, an 8-mile front of 300-foot fire. I also want to thank Steve, your team. I want to thank all the teams. We have more than 1,000 firefighters, 1,000 personnel committed. When this began, you know, the mission was to save Maryville, to stop it. And from there, we started having more and more fires each and every day. I have fought almost 600 fires so far this month. We're averaging 20 plus a day. On Sunday afternoon at about 2:30, we had 9 fires simultaneously. We had 14 fires start up within the course of an hour. And so when you start looking at what does it take, you know, as we concentrate on one fire, then we have another and another and another. And we will continue to fight those fires. We are not going to quit fighting these fires. We're not going to back up. Governor, I also want to thank you for saying that whatever you need, do. Whatever you need, get. And we take that literally, and we are. And so, again, everyone's here, our legislators and all, and it makes a huge, huge difference. We can only do this together. When we talk about it in perspective, in 1942, we lost 1.5 million acres. In 1924, it was 5 million acres. Right now, we're looking at 50 to 60,000 acres. And, of course, you know, if that's your land, your property, your home, it is devastating. So far, with all of your efforts, everyone's efforts, we've held these fires to 1% of what was lost in the 20s, and that is remarkable. We're asking the public, please work with us. Lighting fires, do not light that match. You know, we had more than 20 incidents that we know of people burning trash piles. It's got to stop. The weather conditions are unique. We have never seen this level of drought in my lifetime. And it's on record, we know what it is. It's been since May, since many of the areas got rain. And it's not just the precipitation. A little bit of rain doesn't solve it. We got to soak it through in the first 10 inches of the soil. And then you compound that with Laura, Delta, and Ida, more than 1 million acres of timber on the ground. And here we are, with all this timber, and we have a close interface with the civilian populations. And so it's a recipe for when it starts, that you got to fight those fires intensely. And so we're going to continue to do that firefight. It's important that we do. It's important that we work together. And Steve Parish and your team, thank you so very much. I want to thank everyone. Ms. Lisa, I want to thank you and the local fire departments for pitching in, leaning shoulder to shoulder. When we called out for assets, I have 155 firefighters, and we are the primary firefighters for all wildland fights across the entire state, And after, several days, we knew that we needed additional assistance, and we called and you came. So in addition to helping us control, contain, and we're going to eliminate the fire here and the other fires, it frees us up to jump on other fires. And when you have limited resources and the whole state starts to burn, you need each and every asset that you can get. So I want to thank each and every one of you. And the message is to the public, we're going to continue in this firefight. It's not over yet. The other fires we compare this to were November the 14th, 2011, Creston, Louisiana. That was in November. And you think of this fire in Oil City in 2011. And again, so when you look at those fires, this is not done. We expect a dry September, so we got to be prepared for this and all work together until the rains come, and they will come, and then we can get back to life as normal. Thank you. And with that, I want to introduce Steve Parish with the Red Team, Red Strike Team. Miss Lisa, for every time I need an asset, I said I need, you say I'm sending, right? But again, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, Governor. Again, Steve Parish, Incident Commander, Southern Area Interagency Incident Management Team. We are hosted by all 5 of the major land management agencies, Department of Interior and Department of Agriculture. So our team is made up of all levels of government, local, state, and federal. We are wearing the red shirts right now. However, we come from all walks of life. So we're humbled and honored to be able to come here and serve in a desperate time of need. And we bring a lot of expertise. I'm a small piece. I want to give all the credit to the boots on the ground, the folks that are on the dozers, at the end of the hose, squirting the water. Those folks have mounted a tremendous effort. And again, just reiterating that local effort. At the time of the fire started to the time we made the transition, I would describe it as you can cover the patches and say that we work as one and we work better together. You don't see agencies right now. We're all working towards a common goal, and that's putting the fire out and protecting the public and the communities surrounding the area. So again, we're humbled and honored to be here. I do want to reiterate, we have made progress due to a relief in the weather. The last few days, we've got some tough weather days coming ahead of us. The difference from this point forward is we've been able to catch up on a lot of ground. So it's not like we're fighting the whole entire perimeter now, so that whenever we do have a spot fire, thanks to all the resources provided by National Guard, the aircraft and the resources that we've brought in, we'll be able to respond quickly and hopefully be able to keep those knocked down and small so that it doesn't continue to be a problem any further. So again, thank you all for having us. We're humbled and honored to be here to serve, and we'll do the best we can for you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Steve. Okay, I know, but in case I'm wrong and you have some questions, we'd be happy to take those. Yes, ma'am.
So if you guys could just kind of reiterate how this is different than, putting out a structure fire or something like that, because people are like, well, you can just put water on it. Why can't that just stop the fire? So somebody kind of wants to go into those details and all the factors that are playing a role in that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give it a shot, and then I'm going to let the real experts come up. For one thing, this fire itself, at maximum, Tiger Island fire, 38,000 acres. So where do you put that water? It's 38,000 acres. It's 32,000 acres heat signature as of last night with the IR overflight. And even when you get some level of containment, there are hundreds and hundreds of places right now where we have smoldering fires that all it takes is the wind to kick up, the humidity to drop, the temperature to increase, the sun to come out, and then they're raging again. And it's not like inside that 38,000 acre area, all the fuel has been spent. The fire behavior specialist told us a while ago, they call it a mosaic. There are places inside there that haven't burned at all. There are places that partially burned. But you have smoldering fires everywhere. And so it's not quite that simple. I'm sure if it was that simple, Steve and his crew, once they got here, would have put it out already. And then what you have to do is you have to anticipate flare-ups, and so you go and you reinforce the fire lines that have already been created so that you clean them up and make them wider. They had tremendous success with that today, especially on the north end. The south end, not so much, but they're going to be working on that. So it just really isn't that simple. But because I know that answer was incomplete, I'm going to ask Steve or somebody to come up and expound on it.
Sure. Pretty good explanation to me, sir. But so any fire, whether it's structural or wildland, needs three components to survive: heat, fuel, and oxygen. And so with the dozers being out there breaking the ground down to mineral soil, that's taking that fuel away. Water, of course, extinguishing the heat, and then if you cover something up, that removes the oxygen from it. So in scale perspective, a house from wildland, a lot difference in scale. I'll openly admit that my hat's off to the structural firefighters. I'm not built for that. So all the respect to what they do. So again, it's just pace and scale, and you have to remove one leg of that triangle. And then, as you've heard today, through all the other environmental factors, weather, topography, fuels, weather, and terrain, that also plays a big part of how fast and far those fires will run.
So what you also have to consider, if you're looking at a structural fire, unless you're dealing with a firestorm of an entire city, it's a single incident or multiple homes. When you have a firestorm in the wildland, first of all, what you have is embers that are being shot up into the sky, and they can move as far as 20 miles and start the next fires. And then what you have in that whole situation, the pine sap will volatilize and become turpentine and incinerate, and you have a 300-foot wall of flame. So what we have to do is to plow the lines and try to get the fire out of the tops of the trees, because it can run over your head at 6 to 8 miles an hour. Now think about that, if you got how far it can move. That's why we use aircraft and other teams to knock that fire down, so then we can plow the lines and try to stop it. But the heat is so intense, it creates its own environment. So it is fundamentally different. And then when you look at the size and the scope, if you look at 35,000 acres, that's large as a major city. And it's all on fire at the same time. And then when the weather patterns come in, you get a shift in the weather pattern, you get downdrafts that can blow that debris, and then you get those secondary fires, or as we call them, jumps. It's not that you can plow a fire line and when the fire gets there, it stops. It gets so hot, it can automatically incinerate anything right next to it. So that's a fundamental difference.
Governor, can you give us an update on evacuations?
Yeah, I'm going to let the locals do that in just a moment. I don't know that there are any active mandatory evacuations here in Beauregard Parish at the moment. When we were flying in, we got the emergency alert over the cell phone saying that they were being downgraded to voluntary evacuations here in Beauregard Parish. We, as of noon today, don't have anyone being sheltered in Beauregard Parish. That is a very positive development. People have returned to Maryville. They all have electricity. We think very soon, if not already, they're going to have natural gas as well, so that their life will get back to normal, although they have to remain vigilant and be ready to leave again should that become necessary. I do want to talk about getting life back to normal. There's some individuals out there who, because they were without electricity for 4 or 5 days, and they are in the SNAP program, they are eligible to get SNAP replacement benefits. And that information is being disseminated, how they go about doing that, so that they can get those replacement, go to the store, and be able to feed their family again. So that is available to those individuals. And the electric companies have provided the names of everyone in the parish who were without electricity for more than 24 hours. And if those individuals are SNAP beneficiaries, they can get replacement benefits. Anything else? Yes,
I know
ma'am.
y'all kind of already touched on it, just the different types of fuel. Obviously, the grass you can see is brown everywhere in Louisiana, but just how the hurricanes have made a big impact with the amount of debris in that area as well.
Well, and by the way, it's not just here in southwest Louisiana, it's all over the state, because the hurricane seasons in 2020 and 2021 produced the two strongest hurricanes to ever hit our state. And so you have this timber that was knocked down, but it's on the ground, but it hasn't rotted. And so it's fuel in addition to all the normal underbrush that you would have, and the trees themselves. And so there's an extreme amount of fuel, much more than normal, in these forests. And all of this deadfall has actually made it harder for the forest owners to do the normal management practices that would have consumed some of that fuel too. So that is a compounding issue as well. So extremely challenging. And when you add it all up, the hottest temperatures known, the driest conditions, the low humidity, the wind, the sun coming back out, all the extra fuel that is there, and all the fires that are either active or smoldering when this happens, this is an extremely dangerous situation. And we know that just yesterday, 7 agents of the Louisiana State Fire Marshals issued 20 citations just in this area for people who were violating the burn ban. Need people to not do that. Be aware of just how serious this situation is. The burn ban is in effect, and it will be until further notice. And you cannot assume that just because 1/10 of an inch of rain, by the way, that's about what fell in this area, that 1/10 of an inch of rain did nothing to change the conditions. They are still extremely dangerous. So we need everybody's cooperation, and we need people to be patient. We're going to get through this. And we'll know it when we see it, but we're just not there yet, and this is going to be a long duration event. Look, thank you all so much for covering this. Really appreciate it. Do ask people to pray for our first responders. Pray for everybody who is out working these fires and taking care of people, protecting property. And while you're at it, pray for rain too. Thank you, and God bless. Okay.